Hey everyone, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. So, as you may know, I'm a writer, and I've noticed, at least for myself, that I definitely tend to have some weird habits that I've developed during all the time that I've written that are specifically related to being a writer that I think are quite funny, and so I wanted to share them today with you guys in the hopes that they might be entertaining for you to find out some weird habits that writers have. But I'm also kind of hoping that I'm not the only one that does these things and that some of you writers out there might also be able to relate to some of the things that I'm going to talk about today. So yeah, let's get into 10 weird habits that writers have, or at least that I have as a writer. Hopefully I'm not the only one. The first weird habit that I've noticed as a writer is staring into space for long periods of time. I find myself zoning out so often, especially when I'm obviously thinking about my book and I'm trying to overcome some plot holes or I'm trying to figure out this or that related to my book, where no matter where I am, no matter the situation, I would start thinking about it and I will just zone out and just stare into space, stare at nothing, or worse, look like I'm staring at someone where I'm actually not, I'm just zoning out. And they're like, why are you staring at me? I'm not. I'm thinking about my book. It's weird, okay? It's weird because a lot of the times I don't realize that I'm doing it. I'm just thinking in my head about something, and one minute I can be perfectly natural and in the situation that I'm in, and the next I'm just zoning out because my thoughts have now taken over and I'm just a shell for my plot holes. The second weird habit that I have as a writer is to Google everything. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. As a writer, you literally Google the most bizarre things possible because every time you're writing a scene, you obviously a lot of times write about things you don't know, and it's small things that pop up where like, I wonder if people in a similar dangerous situation would react this way. Let's Google and watch 10 documentaries about plane crashes, because it's just one thing leads to another, and it's sometimes really innocent things, small, weird things. And I learn about new things every single day because of the things that I Google because of my writing. But it can also be kind of questionable things that you wouldn't normally see on people's search histories. So I just took a quick peek at my recent Google search history, and I'll insert a picture right here. I haven't taken anything out, I swear, and this is legit the last things I searched about. And most of these things are related to my book, to the book that I'm writing. So let's go through it. Night Templars, something I had to Google for my book and to learn from and to learn about. Romper is just a word that my husband said, and we weren't sure if it was a onesie or what it was, so we just searched for that. That's not related to my book. Microcosmos lyrics, also not related to my book. It's a BTS song. I needed some lyrics. And then Blutgasse, Blut Vienna, and Elizabeth Bathory are all searches that I had for the same book. For example, Elizabeth Bathory was called Countess Dracula because she liked to murder young women and then bathe in their blood because she thought it would make her younger. This is the kind of things that I Google about because my book requires me to, or not necessarily requires me to, I just think of something and I write something and I'm like, I should know more about this thing. There you go. This is proof that writers can sometimes search for weird things. The third weird habit of writers is getting ideas at really random times and having to write them down. So it's sort of related to the times when I stare into space. Sometimes when I'm doing an ordinary activity like waiting in line at the grocery store or just walking down the street or, just, I don't know what normal people do. One of those things. Sometimes, suddenly, without necessarily thinking about my book, you just get a spark, you just get an idea. And something I've learned about myself, at least, is that when I get one of these ideas, I have to write it down somehow, otherwise it will be gone by the next day. I will not remember what I thought about. But a lot of times it has happened to me where I was just in a situation where you wouldn't necessarily have something to write down. Obviously, you always have your phone, or most of the time I have my phone, so now I use that. But it has happened to me where I was in line somewhere and I just got a brilliant idea and I quickly took my phone out and started typing manically, and people sometimes look at you weird because it's one of these things that you're not self-conscious about, because you get an idea and you have to write it down somewhere because I know I'll forget it. And I just... And then you just go back to being normal. And it's just a second of weirdness, and I don't know, I just think it's funny. So if you see someone manically typing down or writing down something, whereas 1 second before they were completely normal, in a completely normal situation, it might be because they just had a brilliant idea. I don't know. The next weird habit of writers is something that I'm holding right now, and that is drinking way too much coffee or tea or possibly wine or any kind of fuel. We need fuel in order to survive and in order to put down all of these words and write our books. Now, I've also kind of made it a ritual, whereas, you know, every morning or every time I'm about to write, I make myself a nice cup of coffee, or if it's in the evening, I pour myself a glass of wine, and then it's writing time. So it's definitely something that I've made a habit, and it might not necessarily be the healthiest habit to have, because obviously, you know, none of these things are particularly healthy. But I have noticed with myself and with other writers that we definitely drink inordinate amounts of caffeine, to the point where it's really, really unhealthy. And again, it's not necessarily just a writer's thing. Obviously, a lot of people drink coffee, and a lot of people who work for long periods of time drink coffee. But at least for me, the way I like to write is I like to be immersed for a long period of time and not get distracted by anything else. And sometimes that means that I can be sitting in front of my computer for 3 to 4 hours, not doing anything but writing. And you know, you need some kind of fuel to keep your focus sharp for that long period of time. And so I usually just drink coffee for that, because I feel like it does keep me more awake and keep me more focused during those long periods of writing time. But yeah, I should probably cut back a little bit, because it's not the best thing. The next weird habit of writers is something that is related to the one I said before, and that is not eating for an entire day, or not leaving your room for an entire day because you're so focused on writing. This has happened to me so many times because of what I said earlier, that I really like to be super immersed into what I'm doing, and the best writing sessions are the ones where I am so focused on writing that I don't even think about anything else. But sadly, that sometimes means that I forget to eat, I forget to leave the room, because I'm so focused that nothing else matters, and then I wake up after 6 hours from that weird state, and I suddenly realize I'm ravished and I haven't eaten the entire day. The next weird habit of writers is laughing, or in some cases crying, when you read your own words. I haven't cried, but I have laughed aloud so many times while reading my books, to the point where my husband thinks I'm really weird, because I literally laugh at my own jokes, let's be real. But it has happened to me so many times where I've started rereading something that I've written before, especially after having not seen it for a long time. I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but I genuinely enjoy reading what I write, and sometimes it means I laugh at my own jokes because I've forgotten I've written that joke, and it's a good joke and it makes me laugh, but it's my joke, so yeah, it definitely can be a little bit weird. But is that conceited? I don't know. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It's just something I've noticed, so I'm sharing it with you because it's just something funny I noticed about myself. So the next weird habit of writers, and again, I'm not sure if anyone else does this, but this is literally my life, is stacking up piles of books literally everywhere, but especially on my desk. My writing space on a normal day usually is a complete mess because I always have at least one big pile of books on one end that is for research purposes. I don't know what I'm doing this. It is literally for research purposes. I always have a big pile of books. Sometimes I have 2, sometimes I have 3 that I have no space on the actual desk to do the actual work, but I do this all the time, and not just on my desk. I always just pile up books everywhere. You know what? In the purpose of transparency, I'm gonna take my iPhone and I'm gonna go film what my desk looks like at this very moment. I haven't been there. My computer is not there, but my desk is as it was a few hours ago when I was writing, and yesterday when I was writing the whole day. So you can see that this is true, okay? Okay, so I'm filming now with my camera. You can see my setup there and you can see me there. Hi. So, I always get this wrong, but I hope I'm in frame. But anyway, let's go see my desk at this very moment. Alright, so this is where I do most of my work. This is my desk. Look at this. Today it's just one pile, okay? This is like the Emotion Thesaurus, this is a sketchbook. These are all research books. This is the current book that I'm writing and then, and then my Kindle, and I mean, I have a ton of stuff. This is what I'm talking about. I always have at least one of these piles, and it's usually like much higher, and then I usually also have one pile up here. Sorry about the mess, but this is literally what my desk looks like on a daily basis. It's very messy. And speaking of books and notebooks and having things everywhere, my next weird habit of writers is having notebooks everywhere, and usually having multiple notebooks for the same book, for the same purpose. So I'll just show you a small collection that I have right now on the book that I'm working on right now. And again, this is usually something that I keep on my desk, so another one of these piles is here, but I took it off of my desk so I can show the pile to you here. Different notebooks. One of them is the planner. This is the Hobonichi planner where I plan my writing and some of my general schedule, but it is mostly on my writing. This is a tiny moleskin notebook that I usually like to take everywhere. I really like that sticker. That I like to take everywhere with me because it's small and portable, so I usually pop this into my bag, and anytime I have one of those ideas or I want to brainstorm something, I usually write it in here. Then I have this notebook, which is just a lined notebook where if I want to go somewhere else to write and I don't want to bring my laptop, because sometimes I just like to write on paper, then I will take this notebook with me and write on it. So instead of writing on my laptop, I would just write it in here, and then I would obviously transfer what I wrote that day back to my laptop. But you know, sometimes I want to get out of the house and I want to get out, like not sit in front of a computer all day. So yeah, sometimes I use that for the same book. All of these are for the same book. And then I have this notebook, which is actually, it's kind of split into two. One side is one book, and then if you like flip it around, then I use it for another book, so it's kind of split in the middle. But again, yeah, it's where I outline, so I have all of my world building notes and outlines and character sheets and things like that. For example, I can show you, I have, it looks a bit funny, but I added these stickers where I wrote down the beat sheet method for each of the characters. And things like that. So for an ordinary project, and this isn't even like a big project, for an ordinary book, I have at least this many notebooks around where I write down different things. In my head, they each have their own purpose, but in reality, could I use one notebook for everything? Absolutely. Do I do that? Absolutely not. The ninth weird habit that writers have is listening in to other people's conversations, to complete strangers' conversations for book material. One of the things that I like to do is whenever I'm out and about, I sometimes people watch. If two people are suddenly having a very intense argument or a very interesting conversation, or if one of them just, you know, there's some people who just exude vibes of being a character. It's hard to explain, but I've noticed sometimes when there's someone who just is meant to be a character. Maybe this sounds weird. Probably. All of this is weird, but sometimes I will notice these people, or I'll notice other people having conversations, and I will just sit there and listen, because maybe they'll say something interesting or that I could use in my book, or simply, you know, sometimes it's interesting to watch people be people, to watch people interact with each other, because it's important, obviously, in your writing to portray realistic people, realistic situations, and the more you learn about real people having real conversations and being in real situations. Obviously, the easier it then becomes to write something similar to that. But it's definitely, I'm gonna say it's definitely weird. Like, no one wants other people to just listen on their conversation if you don't know them, obviously. But I sometimes do that, and I never like write down anything necessarily, but I just kind of observe and kind of keep things in my mind, whether I think they're useful or not for something that I could use in my writing. Definitely weird though. And the final weird habit of writers is kind of romanticizing old tech. It's not even tech, it's just like romanticizing old ways of doing this job. So obviously nowadays, you have a laptop and you can do everything on your laptop. But I know for myself, and I know for a lot of writers, we really like the old way of doing it. We like pen and paper, and that's also why I just mentioned, that I carry around, sometimes I carry around a notebook where I do my drafting, just so I can get away from the computer. And maybe why I have all of the stationery, all of these notebooks, sketchbooks, print books. I like the old way. And alongside that, another thing is, I want a typewriter. Is that weird? I want a typewriter. I probably will just keep it as a thing in my background, right? And not use it because it's probably one of the most annoying things that you could possibly use for other people around you. But still, I want to write on a typewriter at least once. I want to write like a scene or something on a typewriter. I'm a web developer. I am very much in key with all of these technologies, and I use all of the latest technologies for everything, and yet sometimes there's just something very attractive and romantic about just doing things on paper, doing things the old way. And I don't know. That might be weird, it might not be. It's just, for me, sometimes I'm like, why do I need a typewriter? Why would I want that? Why would anyone want that? But I do, and I'll probably get a typewriter at some point. Well, there you have it. Those were 10 weird habits of writers, or at least 10 weird habits that I have as a writer. Does anyone else do these things? Please, if you're a writer, leave a comment down below and let me know so I feel less alone. Otherwise, if you're not a writer, what are some weird habits that you have noticed about yourself doing, something that you really like doing? But regardless, I hope you enjoyed listening to these weird habits that I have. But yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next Friday with a new video.